As everybody in the room is aware, this is the first meeting between the DEA and school board regarding negotiations over the terms of whatever contract term the parties decide. And the purpose of the meeting today is for the parties to work on establishing ground rules and then hopefully to be able to set a meeting date and time at the conclusion of the meeting for the next conversation, and perhaps look at preliminary topics if time allows. But I do need to clarify for everybody in the room that Mr. Hansen does have to leave at 5 o'clock and has an obligation, so we'll have to try and be efficient with our time. And so having said that, the floor is open to, yes, Mr. Wool.
Before we go to item 2, I would like to read a statement if I could, please. Okay.
The floor is yours, Mr. Wool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based upon the findings the DEA compiled with the statutes concerning the recognition and petitioning process, and the Stark County District Court ordered the district to approve the petitions submitted by the DEA on February 4th, 2015, and upon that approval, the petitions directed its negotiators to meet with the DEA negotiators for the purpose of formulating a negotiated agreement for the 15-16 school year. The board has complied with the order, and the board on May 29th passed the following motion, which stated, I approve the DEA as a representative organization for teacher negotiations, with the understanding that we reserve the right to address and/or appeal the authority to write and enforce board policies and requirements set forth under governance. The DEA, by participating in the negotiation process, does not in any way expressly or impliedly agree to the validity of the reservation of rights as stated in the motion, and does not waive any argument that it may have a right to if the district is to participate in the negotiation process and then appeal the judgment of the Stark County District in the DEA 4 to North Dakota State Supreme Court.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Okay.
If you need copies of this, I do have some copies, or if Twyla needs them for the minutes.
Yeah, that would probably be appreciated, wouldn't it? Yeah, if you want to leave copies, that'd be great. No, and we understand that because we don't have the written order from the judge, we wanted to move forward, but we just wanted to have that. We want to see exactly what it says.
Well, and you know, our concern was that we didn't want to give up the right to argue that in Supreme Court by moving forth with negotiations, because we would like to see negotiations move forward and get a contract. So. Yep.
Understood.
Thank you.
I would agree with you as well.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Wool.
Thank you.
So now I don't know how we want to proceed here, but the floor is open for whomever would like to begin the conversation about the ground rules for negotiations.
I guess our first question would be, does the board intend to negotiate collaboratively or do traditional bargaining?
Well, actually, I've thought about that, and I've thought about the several years that we've negotiated. Mm-hmm. I think we do both, don't we? We do really well till we get to the money, and then we're not really collaborative. It's
kind of a mixture when we get to money, but.
Yeah. So I guess, do you have a preference? I mean, our preference would be for us to be able to talk and be as collaborative as possible, knowing that sometimes that may not be possible because you get into money issues, and then maybe that isn't possible. But our preference would be to be as collaborative as possible, if that's agreeable to you. Is it agreeable to you? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to shoot for. We have to, because we're both have the same goals.
Right.
And that's our students and the success of our students.
Right.
So my question then is, can we change ground rules to go back to the attitudes that we've read in the past?
Well, we don't have problems with the attitudes.
I mean,
the attitudes for collaborative bargaining, which are different. I mean, I don't have them here, but we never had a problem with the attitudes.
And I think what Mr. Fay is meaning is, can we, change that so that in the agenda or the minutes it doesn't say ground rules, it says attitudes. Oh, because ground rules is traditionally for bargaining, not collaborative.
Sets a tone.
Right.
It sets a tone where attitudes kind of says that we're willing to work together as a group to come together.
Well, we don't have a copy of the attitudes with us, but we don't have a problem with the attitudes, but we have had ground rules in the past and there was some things we wanted to talk about, a few things, if that's all right. I mean, how do you want to handle that? Do you want to talk about the ground rules and then come back and decide, or what would you like to do?
I actually have a copy from 2011 of our collaborative bargaining ground rules.
Are they these? Are these the same ones? They look the same?
Yeah.
I think they're the same.
President Fair, your date is on the bottom of that,
Yeah.
I believe.
1/8 of 2013, but it says also 1/19 of 2011.
Yeah, that's the same one I've got. Yep.
So it's the same one? Okay. All right, so we have that. Then we also had the ones that were approved in October of 2014. And, well, here's what I did, is I actually we sat down and we thought about what are the topics of things that maybe we'd want in ground rules. And so I just made a list. And so, do you want to, I mean, I have copies, do you want to
Okay.
talk about them? They're pretty much, there are some that are real similar to what we've done in the past.
You can look at them and talk about them.
Just see what you think. And most of these are things that we've done before, but also, I wanted to see what your thoughts were. Thank you. And if you would hand one to Mrs. Peterson, I don't think she has a copy yet, so she has them. So these are topics that we've pretty much addressed before. And what did you, I just guess I'd like to see.
May I hand the rest
Yeah,
of them
yeah,
to
yeah.
the back side of the room?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you.
So for meetings, do we want to set time limits? Is that what you were thinking there?
Well,
You
we
know,
have, yeah, what we had before is that, or what I had written down is that they'll be scheduled at reasonable times, and so
Right.
on. Our preference is having them on Wednesdays around 4 because of our schedules. And I realize we may have to adjust those depending on if we're
Right.
still negotiating when school starts or whatever, but we both have different schedule, you know, kind of
And-
tight schedules. so-
and one thing I did do in the
Yeah.
interest of trying to help us put together a schedule is I emailed all of our bargainers and asked them, what dates are you not available this summer for the whole summer?
Oh,
And I actually put together a June, July, and August calendar with open dates, and I had showed it to Dr. Sullivan the other day when he stopped by, you know, just so he had an idea, and he kind of said, well, there's a date in there when I have to be gone and stuff too, so, so I do have that so that'll help
Okay.
a little bit.
Yeah. So do you think you want to say, do you want to leave that preference? I mean, does that time work for you guys? Just generally Wednesdays at 4?
Take a look at the calendar there and,
And I realize we're going to set the date of the next meeting at each negotiation session.
Right.
At the end.
Well, when I look in here, Wednesday the 17th is open in June. The month of July is absolutely terrible, if you'd like to look at that. I mean, I'm getting married this week and honeymoon that week, so I'm gone that whole week, and we've got other ones that are gone the same time. Then the whole first 2 weeks of August are open. So,
Okay.
you know, we've got,
So July is totally out anyway, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
kind of.
yeah, kind of,
Unless Brian wants to postpone his wedding.
um,
I don't think Amber would like that.
I don't
Okay.
think that would make her very happy.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
Well,
But we can-
that's helpful to see what you have available. I know I'm going to be gone in July sometimes, and I just confess that I left my calendar at work, so. Anyway, do you want to try what we said last time, is that meetings would be scheduled for about 75 minutes or an hour and a half? Do you want to try that again as well? Do you want to not have that in?
when we were collaborative before, we tried for that hour and a half, and if we were in the middle of something, getting close to agreement, we would see if we could come to an agreement to work another allotted amount of time, and I don't think that's unreasonable to,
Okay.
And I know, I would agree with that as well, because, you know, we are not in school. So, and I know for most of the meetings that I've been involved in, we've been doing mornings, which before school kind of put a crimp on the time.
Yep.
For everybody, yeah.
Right, so, you know, I think if things are being productive and we're moving forward, I think we should be open to negotiating a longer time period per meeting, if we're really pushing
Right.
forward.
Right, and that's what we had last time, is that unless both parties agree to go beyond that time limit, and that could just be if somebody's got something they have to go to.
Right.
That you'd let everybody know at the beginning.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else you think of on meetings? Well, you didn't want to use the meeting wizard, but now that you have dates, do you want to use that? Is there, or what can
Well,
we?
I know what
since
dates
you've
are
got
all
open dates?
available here, so, you know,
Okay.
if there's dates that are available, I can give a copy of this calendar to Twyla.
Okay, and then
And-
we can schedule.
Right, and we can
whatever's
schedule,
there?
yep,
Okay, so then we can check our calendars from that, okay. Sure. Okay, let's do that then. Okay, great. Sounds good, okay. Then the next, do you have anything else on meetings?
I didn't.
Okay, so the next one is team members, and we left the same, well, it's actually the same as last time.
Mhm.
Determine how many resource people they want. We had the same, I think we had only the board team and DEA team participates at the meetings. We put on here, see what you think, we were thinking of having Mr. Reed be the resource person for both teams, meaning he would not be participating, we would be asking him for information.
And so he would not be seated at the table then, we would call on him.
Right, unless you want, yeah,
Right,
we'd
or-
have him sitting separate, or
right.
he could be sitting at the
Okay.
end, or whatever we agree, and then if we both agree that we
Right.
need information on financial
Yeah.
or whatever, do you
Yeah.
want to do that?
Yeah, because then if we need financials, he can go get them out of his office and print
Mm-hmm.
them or whatever.
Yeah, is that do you want to leave that?
I think that's an appropriate thing for,
Okay,
because that is his job.
Right,
well, it is. And then that one also had something about who gets to talk at the meetings, and so we had one just saying public participation, which just really says the board team and the DEA will only those two groups would participate at the meetings unless both parties agree to allow a non-team member to speak or participate. Which to me means, if you want Mr. Reeb to address something, we both have to agree. If there's another non-team member that we want to present whatever information, we both have to agree. That's what it means to me, whatever you guys think.
yeah, I think that's good.
That's fine.
Okay. And then where the caucus, that is the same. And now there's a law that allows the board to caucus, which is kind of,
Right, but if we are gonna truly be collaborative, then we shouldn't be doing
Mm-hmm.
caucusing. You know, all our discussions should be at the table.
true.
So-
And I wondered, you know, it seems like when we get to talking about the money, sometimes one or both groups want to go talk for a couple minutes, so I'm okay with however you would see that as working. I don't want to say we aren't not going to do it. I would personally not want to see that, but I'd like to see
Right.
it be whatever, as open as possible. I agree with you, Brian, that if we are really collaborating, we should be able to talk about everything. I think that's when you get to the money, you really want to like talk without the other people there to see what else you might come up with. So I'm open to however you would want to word that, or what you guys are thinking.
I don't think we want to limit the right of either side to go out and caucus. But you are right, if we truly want to remain collaborative, and I think that we want to maintain that atmosphere as much as possible. And it's just much more friendly.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't think, I actually, in the past, I don't think any of us have overused that caucus at all.
No,
No.
It's just sometimes you just want to, you need to make sure you're all on the same page. Okay.
Do we want to set a time limit for caucuses or not?
I don't care.
Because it will eat up in our time frame for a meeting.
Right, because it has to
Yeah.
be included.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, do you want to? Do you want to, at that time, say that when you call for the caucus, it's,
I
You
think
set the time
I think it'd
frame?
be times, or that specific to each situation. Sometimes you might need to meet for a little longer than other times, so.
so do you want it worded a certain way, or just want to leave it open? If we're being collaborative, we're probably okay.
yeah.
Let's just leave it open.
Okay. What are your feelings on the recorder for the meeting?
I think it worked well to have both of us doing
Yep.
the recording, because I know both sides have caught different things that were missed on either side, so I like the idea of maintaining each of our own recorders.
One thing that I thought of, though, is, do we want to be able to agree that this is what happened at the last meeting? I feel like we should have something written, and we would agree at the next meeting, so that we aren't saying, well, no, we didn't agree to that figure, or we did agree to it. I'm wondering, if we each have recordings, we ought to be able to go back and check our recordings and make sure they're okay? What do you think? I understand what you're
So-
saying. I just feel like we
Right.
should have something that we say we agree that this is what happened.
Right, a set of minutes that we could agree upon if we're going to be collaborative.
Mhm.
How do we want to do that?
Thanks.
Did Twyla take them before?
Mhm.
House?
Yeah, she took them and sent them out.
And then we split her cost.
Okay. Does
That's
that
how it
work?
was
If we
before.
have tape recordings, does that work for Mrs. Peterson to do that?
So it's fine with me. You'd have to be committed to reading
Right.
them and sending the corrections
Right.
in so that they
Yep.
get done for the next meeting. We can't just say, thanks for the minutes.
Right.
And then you go later, no, that wasn't what was said. We need to
Right.
all be committed to doing it. And I usually do leave my minutes to the very last moment. to read.
I think that as long as both sides are going to tape, which I can see that they are, having Twyla, using those to ensure Twyla is accurate
Mhm.
Yeah,
would be appropriate.
yep.
Okay.
I think we can do that and go back to Twyla sending out minutes.
Okay. So what'll...
But we'll
yeah,
still allow both sides to record.
Of course.
So, okay.
Yeah, so what'll happen is she'll send them to the lead negotiator of each
Yep.
team. And then it's up to that person to, you know,
Disperse.
get them out, get all the corrections back to her.
Yep.
And I know there's numerous times that she's listened to the recordings, of our recordings, several times to see what was the word, what was
Right.
said. So if we can at least get those corrections back, or say, our recording says this, or we can't hear what ours says, we don't,
Right.
do you have it? That, we can work together on that, okay. I think that'll really help us going forward. I like to have a
Yep.
written record, but I felt like sometimes I feel uncomfortable just that not both sides approve them or look at
Right.
them. And then I'm not really sure if you're all okay with that.
Okay.
On the financial information, what I thought was this, just based on our past experience, could we all use the same salary schedule? Starting whenever we start with the topics, and the same financial information. So it would be presented to us here, and we are all going to agree. And then we would have it at every meeting, so we could have it on a screen or something, and if someone proposes it, it could be plugged in, and you could run it, it'll run through, and you'll see it right there, and we will avoid, I think this number is this, I'm rounding, I'm being exact, I forgot about that, you know what I'm saying? And there's a couple other factors.
We don't have 3 meetings of arguing over numbers then.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the difference between collaborative and traditional bargaining. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And I'm
And
willing to
that's-
sit down with Vince, because I know we already have DPI numbers,
Mhm.
and what are his numbers, and
Mhm.
it should be fairly close. And I know that last time we went more with Vince's numbers, and I'm willing to sit down with him and look at both sets of numbers and come up with
Okay.
a number that I can bring back and say, okay, this is where we're pretty close.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Well, and then I thought if we just
We're
have.
past. Just so you know,
oh.
Oh, we're gone to, oh.
we've gone 20 minutes so
Okay,
far.
so I just thought if we had that at every meeting, we're not going to continue to question And we were, you would give
Yeah.
a number, and then Vince would say, oh, I remember that number, and I don't remember where it came from.
Right.
And we'd be looking, I feel like we're wasting time if we can agree on the numbers. And also, if we have Mr. Reap as a resource person, we can ask him the questions. If we all agree or
Yep.
before, okay. I hope that'll make it more clear and easier for us.
Dr. Sullivan, do you know Mr. Reap's schedule in the next week or two? Like probably even next week, is he available?
Mr. Fay, as far as I know, he is.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be leaving out of the district next week.
Okay, so
He
if
hasn't told me.
I can make, I'll try to make arrangements
Okay.
early next week to meet with him and spend some time.
I think usually, no, today, like Fridays are usually family days, he's out doing things at the lake. Okay, great. That would be much appreciated, Mr. Fay. I really appreciate that. So what I was thinking is we will have that, unless the team wants something different. We can have that financial information like at the first negotiating session, or we can have it at some point. But I feel like we
Right.
ought to, I mean, when do you want to have that? I mean, it can be available at any time, and he can have it available any time. And once you guys agree.
Yeah,
Once we sit down.
Once they get together and sit down and come up with some
Okay.
numbers, then we can have that available at the next.
Okay, that sounds good. Also, I didn't know what you thought about the meeting facilitator. I know you've been at a lot of trainings on bargaining, and so have we, and we noticed that many people do it differently. I think Bismarck doesn't really have a chair, doesn't really have a facilitator, and some
Yeah.
people, so I wanted to see, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought it was nice when, we truly were collaborative or as close to it as we could, and we rotated through the board and DEA, not just, like before when it was you and I back and forth. It was nice when different people took turns and it wasn't, because then different experiences come out for different people, and and that just kind of says that we're all even, and working together.
Well, there's only two of us. So-
Well,
But I wondered, I did ask Dr. Sullivan to chair this meeting because I didn't want to have to worry about
Right.
running the meeting. I just wanted to work on the ground rules. Would it be okay with you if the board sometimes chose to have Dr. Sullivan chair when it's our turn to chair? Like he'd be in the rotation, sort of, for us?
yes, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, all right. We'll see, okay.
I just threw you under the bus.
He was depending on you to say, no, that's not okay.
Sorry, I didn't get that memo.
I think the other aspect of rotation is that it gives everybody an opportunity to be in that spot. And, we're not all going to be negotiators forever, and we're going to be passing the torch eventually as well, so it gives them experience.
Sounds good. Okay. Great. Meeting location. My question there for you is, do you anticipate that a large number of people would be attending each negotiation session?
Sometimes. I mean, I know this one was kind of tough with it being right after school was out. A lot of people had plans ready for the weekend, but I kind of think as we get more into working on issues, there will be larger numbers of people attending.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we can look for,
We will.
find what's available for,
Yep.
depending on how big it's,
Right.
can let us know if it's gonna be a big meeting or whatever.
Well, and we could ask for RSVPs, but
Well,
that's kind of hard to.
I
Yeah.
think we can probably play that one by ear as
Right.
well. I mean, we kind of did that the last time we sat across the table from each other.
Right.
We looked at it and said, okay, we're too big for this room, we need to find another facility.
Yeah.
yep. So Mr. Hanson can let us know where our meetings are going to be then.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can do that. Well, we'll look for something that can accommodate and would maybe be nice climate-wise, like has air conditioning, is what I was thinking. Okay, sounds good. Then, as far as topics or proposals or agenda, how did we do that before? proposals or topics?
Well, when we were collaborative, we wrote problem statements.
Yeah.
Like say, you know, the problem
Probably.
is that, well, I'm gonna use the grievance thing, you know, teachers aren't being compensated for time outside the work schedule, what can we do to
Well, you can
fix
use
that?
that because we talked about that
Right,
before. So.
you know, so,
Mhm.
you know, and we wrote a problem statement, and then we came up with suggestions and,
We voted
And we
on
voted
the
on
Right,
it.
and voted
topics
on
and we-
topics and
'cause I remember writing them on
prioritize
nice little
them.
flip
Yep.
charts.
I remember
Yep.
that, yep, okay.
and we know salary's always number one on both sides, so.
Well, that probably only the problem statement. But
Right.
Maybe we do,
But-
I don't know.
But it's always one of our
Yeah,
issues.
It's always one of them, yep. Do you want to do the problem statement?
That's
Same
fine.
thing, that's fine? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to see, we talked about, at times, we've talked about alternating, or we've talked
Yep.
about how we want to do them, so, okay.
Because if we go to, you know, we bring a list of topics and proposals, and you bring a list, and we exchange them, then we're back to traditional bargaining, and then we're arguing over them, and then it becomes unfriendly.
True. Well, before now, what did we do before? We said no new agenda items will be proposed after the primary topics have been set and a third meeting has followed. I don't know how many topics are coming forward this time, but can we set something like that? Do we want to set something? When are we done
I
taking
mean-
topics?
We've had our survey for 3 months,
Okay.
and, you know, so we've got our list of topics, and we know what our list of stuff is, and so, you know, I would think if we, our next meeting, write problem statements for those and work on that and prioritize, I don't think there's gonna be new issues coming forward after that. Do you, Mr. Fay?
I think so.
Well, and if something
know,
did come up
Right,
that affected,
You guys chime in here too, guys.
yeah,
yeah, if it was, well, you know, like say all of a sudden there's a drop in whatever money we're getting from the state, I mean, we would then have
Right.
to go back
That would
and
be
re-
different, yeah.
And
that's different
The
though.
collaboration aspect, if it's
Right.
an important issue for one, it's important for all.
Right.
Okay, so are you saying that we try to write problem statements like the next negotiation session if we agree on all the ground rules? We'd like to do that at your
that's-
first meeting, maybe?
Yep. Is that what you guys,
I think the faster we,
get them written, the faster?
considering
And
the,
prioritize?
considering the amount of conflicts that we have over the summer, I think that's the best we can do. And we'll get
Okay,
them done.
so we try to get them written and then prioritize, and then that will help set our agenda.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And maybe with the amount of conflicts, we might have to do a longer marathon session
We might
and,
have to do that.
you
Maybe
know.
that next one is a long one,
right.
depending on how many topics there are. Okay. So do we want to say, are there no new agenda items proposed after we write the problem statements? If we agree that we are bringing all of our issues at the next meeting? I don't know, I'm just
What do you guys think?
asking. How do we say that we're done
mean-
taking topics?
It would sure help clean things up, move things along. I don't know what-
I'm okay with it, like
Yep.
like you said, if something extraordinary happened, then we could maybe
Mhm.
open it up again, but.
Okay, so no new agenda items will be proposed after problem statements have been written unless, what do we say?
I would say written and prioritized.
Written and-
Because
written,
after,
yep.
after we write them and bring them next time, we're gonna have to take them back and
Right.
kind of prioritize as a team and then come back and do that. That's what we did in the past.
Mhm. So unless, what do we have?
Mutual
Unless
agreement by
mutually
both-
agreed on
yeah.
or something? Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, then the next item we had on here was tentative agreements. We realized that in the past, we thought we had tentative agreements, we maybe did or did not, but we never signed anything. And I wonder if that would help.
Well, I think the
We
biggest
have a
thing with
tentative
tentative
agreement.
agreements is to make sure when our chair goes through at the end, when we had tentative agreements, it was good if we made sure we put that, we have tentative agreement on such and such issue, does everybody agree? Yes, and then that was on our agenda for the next meeting, tentative agreements are such and such. And with Mr. Reap being a resource person, that would be something he could add into the negotiated agreement as we go and keep that up to date maybe, so that we could look at what were tentative agreements at the next meeting and make sure they're all right.
So you're thinking like the meeting after the tentative agreements, we would look at all the
Proof 'em.
language again,
Yep.
proofread it?
You know, just take a minute and,
I think that, you know, with recordings and so forth, it'll help to.
it'll help to clarify that
Yeah,
also.
Definitely. And I do like the idea that at the end of the meeting, we sit down and say, okay, here's what we believe we have tentatively agreed on tonight. Do you agree? And
Yep.
we could take a roll call vote, I mean, however we want to do it. I mean, or
Right.
we could just do a voice vote.
Right.
I think that's a good idea, then there's no second guessing, well, did we or didn't we?
Well, and then you would for sure have to approve the minutes at the
Right.
next meeting, so make sure that
Yep.
we're all, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think rather than taking time during the meeting to have somebody draft a tentative agreement and sign both back and forth, we could spend that time working on issues and just,
Okay. Okay. The next one we had that we think we've had before is, I think, have we had this one before? Just on conduct, which is conducting yourselves in a orderly fashion and so on, which goes back to your attitudes.
Mhm.
But also, we had in there something about our cell phones were turned off.
yeah.
I'm just checking the time.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Mine's here, but it's on Do Not Disturb, so it won't.
Okay.
Mine's on airplane mode.
Yep.
And then we did, last time I think we did have the subsequent meetings that we would be setting the date and the agenda for the next meeting
Yep.
at the end of the meeting, at the end of each meeting.
Yep, and you know, in the past, if we've gotten an agenda and there was a change, we've emailed and, you know, gotten that set up ahead of time, so.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, and then the time frame, we've had a couple different things where we've talked about if we're having a target date to be done, if we are only meeting for so many meetings, what are your preferences or what are your thoughts with that?
I think it goes back to how when we sat down last time, we started to say, if we don't do this by this time, then either side can declare impasse. We're setting ourselves up for
Failure.
failure.
And we don't want to do that.
And right now, I see us going in a good direction collaboratively, and I think it's as long as we're moving forward, consistently moving forward.
And I think that's partly the job of who's ever chairing. If we get to a point on an issue where we're not making any headway, I think the chair should say, well, let's move on to the next issue and leave this one and come back to it the next meeting with some new ideas. If not, then we'll have to decide at that time what to do about it. But, you know, I think if we reach a point where we're talking about compensation for an hour and a half and we haven't gone anywhere, I think our chair should have stopped us and said, you know what, let's do our next issue and rethink this a little bit for the next one, instead of saying we get 15 minutes per topic and if not, we're done. Because then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, I do like kind of having some sort of a goal, and back here, we agreed to just set a target date to be done.
Right.
And looking at the calendar, I don't know, but I don't really want school to start without a contract. And we're looking, I mean, you can
Right.
see
I
exactly
know.
how much time we have to get it done by your calendar. We want to have a contract as soon as possible.
Well, the first date of checks would be September 20th. And obviously we don't want to go there.
No.
Right,
We want to have plenty of time before that. So,
Right.
I mean,
What realistically, I mean, what do you think realistically, this would be before school started?
That would be
Is a realistic goal?
But
I'd like to, but,
I don't see why we couldn't shoot for that.
yeah,
right,
Again, it would depend upon how many meetings we're
Yeah.
going to need.
Right.
We don't know the agendas yet. We don't know
Yeah.
the priorities yet. So we'd have to look. I mean, if there's 15 things up there,
it's hard to set that right now.
Sure, but if you
Yeah.
don't have a goal, then you're not.
I mean,
Can we
Can
just
can
send
we,
it
can we
like
say a
towards
time
something?
frame, for the purpose of setting these proposed ground rules, can we say a time frame for completion will be set based upon the tentative agendas, prioritization of topics.
Do you guys have an idea about how many issues the board has to?
I don't think we have a lot.
No, we got like 2, maybe 3. I think that they're similar to yours, is what I think they're gonna be. I don't know for sure. But I
And we've
mean,
got
of course,
about
salary, let's not even
Right.
consider that. That's the one that we
That's a
all wanna
given.
talk
Right.
about.
Right.
That's a given.
So we maybe have just a couple other items.
Yeah, and I think,
Maybe.
you know, ours is like 4 then, or somewhere's in there, 4 or 5, so. And some of them are probably the same as yours, so that puts it at like 3, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
so.
I
We could
wonder, could we just try to set a time frame? I mean, that makes that next meeting a marathon.
say
right?
mid-August?
By mid-August? Mid-August to,
A target date to
Mhm.
possibly have, and we can always
have
change
agreement.
that.
yeah, now we have to really think about that time frame. I remember from the last time, what was it? That we need to have everything in order to make the next payroll by, what is it, the 10th? In order
Right.
to make
Yeah.
the next payroll.
Right.
So
So
I
if-
want to be really mindful that we're not stretching things out.
Right, into September, because we don't,
Yeah.
Can we shoot for August 10th? And then if by chance.
well,
we have-
August 12th would be a Wednesday,
Okay,
you know, that would be a week and a half before school starts.
If we do
And it
meetings
would-
every 1, 2, 3, once a week, though, when July is out, that's not too many weeks.
No, we do not have too
No.
many weeks to go.
And that's why I said we might have to do some other days,
Yeah.
Based on our calendar, that would give us 12 days,
you know,
and that's, you
Wow.
know, not even what would work.
well, plus the
Yeah.
ones here.
Right.
But I know
Yeah, I
Dr. Sullivan,
added
you
those.
said you leave the 11th of June
And he's gone now.
for a week, you said?
6, 7, 8,
Couple?
9, 10, 11.
Rest of the month?
Yeah,
It's 12, it's 12 open days
Yeah,
from now.
total, yeah. And you're not gonna meet
but,
day after day.
Yep.
So how do we want to set that? We want to say it, we're going to have a target date to be completed by mid-August, August 12th, I mean, that's going to be really pushing it.
mm-hmm.
Do you have any feedback on it? You look like you have some.
Well, my only suggestion would be August 19th is the last Wednesday before the school calendar starts, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember what day the students come in.
24th is in-service day, 25th and 26th we have students.
26th is the students.
That's Wednesday, the 26th we have students.
Wow.
But
And I
now,
think perhaps one of the things that maybe the parties should discuss right now, the meetings have been set. You said the preference is Wednesday, but maybe if you're making progress, the following week you plan to meet on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Well, we
You know,
could,
I mean, I think you need to provide yourselves with some flexibility in there, particularly given the tight time constraints that we're faced with.
or even if we have to do a Saturday morning or something, I mean,
No, I never said anything about that.
Me neither.
well, I mean, I'm just trying to throw some suggestions out there, you know.
As long as the parties are going to be
Right.
flexible in terms of their
Yep.
scheduling and not restrict yourselves to exclusively Wednesday, I
Wednesdays.
think there are more options that can be considered in terms
Yep.
of getting in the requisite number of meetings to get
No.
the question resolved.
and obviously I think
We're
that
gonna
some
have
of,
to.
some
Yeah.
of our days
Just have to.
might be just one of us not available, so I mean,
Right.
we can see.
And I could go back through that email and initial each day and see who each day was not available and,
so if you open up additional days, that might help.
right.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just one of us that's gone, not 2 or 3.
Yeah, for sure. We have, the board this year has a backup too for both negotiations, just because of our schedules. And we realized we had to do that last year, so
Yeah.
we just decided to go ahead and do it right away. Gives us more flexibility as well. So what do we want to say for the time frame? Well, is there there must be a payroll in August, is there?
No.
No,
But it's
no
Not
based
yet.
payroll in
upon-
August?
September 20th.
It comes out in June, we get that payroll check in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so-
June, we get June, July, and August are
September's
payroll,
the first month.
because they close out the fiscal year
End of June.
end of June.
So
And then the
the
first,
first check for 2015-16 is September.
Okay,
September 20th, yeah.
I'd say
Okay.
before in-service starts in August, we want to be, I mean, that's a good
Yeah.
date to shoot.
you want to
I
be
think that's a
done,
good day to shoot for.
and how much time do you need to go back and get approval?
Well, we have to have a meeting to present, and then 7 days later, we can vote.
Okay, so you have to add
Correct,
another.
past president? Okay,
You have to add another week in there then.
right, for
For
ratification.
that timeframe.
So maybe we.
And then the
we
board
should-
has to
And then
meet,
after we hear from you, we schedule a special meeting.
Yeah, so maybe
So
we
it
should,
gives us some
shoot for
time?
the 12th. or
So when's
or
the-
16th.
let's ask this,
Monday.
the August board meeting will already have been done then, because that would be the second
Yeah.
Monday,
Second
so the
Monday, whatever
10th,
that is.
yeah. So,
Well, we can have a special board meeting if we need to, of course.
Right.
It's nice if you can get it in and they're already having a
Right.
meeting, but we can do that.
Would be good if we had everybody here agree before in-service stuff started. I mean, even if you have a week after that, but as
Right.
long as everybody's kind of going back into the swing of things,
Mhm.
knowing that there's probably an agreement. Wouldn't
Right.
be so bad.
Would you have trouble having a meeting when you aren't getting that close to school? I mean, would that be a problem?
It's
No.
actually probably easier to have a meeting when we're getting that close to school.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that would be easier rather than, I mean, I'm saying like, what if you ended up agreeing earlier in August? Would it be more difficult to get your members together?
I think we can get a quorum.
I think once we hit
Fine.
August, I think
August is,
things are
Yeah.
gonna be coming
That's a
back
better
there, because our
month.
teachers are already getting into their classrooms and getting ready, so
That'd be a big
they're
problem.
here and
Yeah.
their minds are getting set on school
Right.
already. You know, July, they're still lake bound.
oh, I'm sure. So if I just, I'm trying not to belabor the point, but
Right.
you have the calendar, I
I would say
forgot mine,
mid.
but if we had an agreement, if we had a tentative agreement here, you take it back by the in-service day, then you got another week, you're the first week
Yeah.
of school. And then after that, the board's meeting. So you're getting into September then, before we
Usually
approve.
right at that end of
You're
August.
gonna be-
Well,
Right at the
right,
end of
because the
August.
in-service day is the 24th, the next Monday is the 31st.
What
I don't
about
have
the
September
19th?
with me, I'd have to look on my phone. but-
Okay,
that what we
well,
talked?
I do,
Yeah.
you're saying the 19th, that gives you,
Yeah.
well, then you'd
Yeah.
be meeting, you have 7 days.
Right,
If,
It'll be in the
Right.
first few days of
Okay.
school.
that would be the
Yeah.
26th, that would be the
Okay.
first day of
Right.
school. You know, then that gives the board
well, we can meet in.
15 days before the 10th to get it in for payroll, so,
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're just gonna target August 19th, hoping that we'd be done sooner.
mhm.
Yep, okay. All right. And so really then, like, time frame and completion is pretty much the same thing?
Yep.
To put both of those together, okay.
And then, I guess the question I have, I mean, because this isn't very fun to do every year, are we doing a 2-year or a 1-year? I mean,
1
what's the
year.
thoughts?
I agree.
Are we doing a 1-year?
Yeah,
Okay, just so we kind of know going forward.
yeah,
Well, you know, really for us, it would be great if we could at least, we could do a 2-year, if we could talk about it. Then you've got it done, we know what money there's gonna be. Is there a reason to not do it? We know we can't impose a second year of a contract, so to me, what's the reason to not do it?
I guess right now, you know, all of our members in the survey, that was one of our big responses. When we had just another question, was we want a 1-year agreement. So,
Do you know what the reason
Well-
is for that?
you know, I think a lot of it is just things in the issues
Issues
that,
that may have
right,
arise.
may arise during the year, and, you know, neither side has been real diligent about reopening if there's issues and redoing them things in a 2-year agreement, so, you know, for a while, members would like a 1-year in case some issues come up and we need to address some things with changing populations and classroom sizes and workloads, and, you know, your money might change next year if population really increases or decreases, or, you know, there's just a lot of variables with the way things are changing so rapidly right here that,
If I could say something, Mr. Wool.
yep,
I guess I'm not against talking about it. I'm against putting it in our ground rules.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm not against, you know, I mean, obviously, if we're really doing the job of collaborative bargaining and we're doing it well, and it looks good for 2 years salary-wise, I mean, I don't see why we can't agree. You know, because you're right, you know the money for 2 years, because the legislature's over.
Mhm.
I mean, you know
We
that.
pretty much know what we're getting.
Right,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I guess I'm not against talking about a 2-year agreement on some things, but I don't wanna bind us to it here. I would rather say, okay, just take that 15 right off the table, and then we can talk about it, because that's all we've done in the past too,
So-
just talk about it.
If things go good, at some point, we can say, you know, it's gone good, let's
But, you know,
do a
What- how do
second.
we feel
you
about
know,
it?
we can say, okay, here's your number one salary, because most of the time, you know, that's the real issue when it comes to your number
Yeah.
two, unless something comes up like the issue we had with the grievances, that now we want to, you know, they want to discuss in contract language. You know, things like that coming into play. If nothing like that happens in a year, I don't think there's an issue with a 2-year contract. But I think that if we bind ourselves right here to a 2-year contract, then I don't feel I'm doing a service to my members that I'm serving. You know, but I think that with salary though, you know the money for second year, and if we're in agreement with it, could we sit down and say, okay, here's your number one, now let's take a look at your number two? Could we talk about it? Absolutely.
And if-
Do we have to agree upon it at the very end? Not necessarily, but we might.
Sure, and if we did agree on it, I think it would help, because then we're not arguing every single year, there's, you know, the clashes aren't there, everybody's happier if we're not negotiating every single year, I would guess, but.
Yeah, and it would, I do want to say that we would be committed if issues are coming up, that we would want to meet in between and say, this is an issue that's coming up, let's just talk about it. Or can it be taught, maybe it doesn't need to come to negotiations, or maybe it does, but at least Dr. Sullivan would want to know about it and talk about it, and then does it need to come to us here? And not to say, well, you know, well, let's just, we're only talking about 1 year, so we'll just wait till the end of that year, and we won't address the issue till the next year. We don't want to close it. So it sounds like, to me, that we can agree that we might talk about the length of agreement sometime.
But I would like to not see it on the ground rules.
Okay.
We can agree to that. So, would you like us to put this together and send it to you?
So are we gonna call these attitudes then? I mean, are the attitudes much different than?
The
actual
attitudes are
ground
quite a bit
rules?
different than
Yeah.
what the ground rules are.
It just talks about, you know, why we're of a common purpose.
Right.
And that we're willing
I mean,
to.
would you like to look at what the attitudes?
I don't know, actually, Jason's he's only sat in a couple times, and maybe we didn't even read him at that time.
No,
No, we
No,
didn't.
we didn't.
no, so,
So, well,
But-
we used to just go around and
Right.
each person would read one. That's how it
yeah,
started.
because Jason was through the training when we trained a million years ago.
5 years ago, yeah.
But then he never sat in on
Right.
it, and he
And
stepped in at the last minute.
John has never been through the training,
Okay.
so, you know, and I don't know who you're, you know, if you have substitutes for the board who, if they've been trained or not. I think Miss Ross was the only other one that was
Yeah,
trained.
she's the only one. Mrs.
And-
Ricks will be the one as the backup this year, if needed. So that's what the attitudes are, yeah.
So you said we don't have, we'll still have ground rules as collaborative or not, or what?
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought somebody said we don't have ground rules.
They're just not as extensive,
Okay.
Yeah.
is what, you know, so,
Okay,
And the rules kind of sometimes gives that negative connotation.
yeah.
sure.
It does, yeah.
Nobody
So-
likes rules.
Okay, just in the interest of time, it's about 10 minutes to 5, so I just want to clarify that what's going to happen is President Fair will get a document to Mrs. Peterson, and Mrs. Peterson will distribute it to everybody.
So you want to distribute it to
That-
everybody then? We'll do that?
That's
And,
fine.
Well, I mean, there may be revisions, I mean, we're open
Well,
to
maybe-
revisions. You want me just to
right.
send it to you, you give me back, or she can send it to you, change?
She can send it
put
to me and
in?
I'll forward it and we'll have a meeting and, you know, see if there's anybody that has disagreements. And then I can send
Okay.
revisions if there's anything
Yep,
that,
yep,
And the
and you can do the
intention-
same, you know, when you and
Yeah.
Jason can look at them. And
The intention would be to finalize them and sign them at the next meeting.
that'd be
That'd be
like the
correct.
first thing on the
Right.
agenda?
Yeah, that'd be the first thing on the agenda.
We went through
Okay.
our list, did you guys have any?
Did you guys
No.
have additional things for that? Okay.
No.
she was wanting to clear up about who's on the team, because, you know, we did talk about maybe one short stay. And Yvette is still on our team, you know, and it's still the same team that we've had in the past, so just so
Sure.
that you understand that.
Yeah,
that they're
yeah, I
there.
think we
Yeah,
knew
she-
that somebody
yeah.
wasn't able to be here.
Yeah, I had emailed that
Yeah.
back, so, but
yeah,
she will be at other ones during the summer, she just,
Yep,
So, just so that's clarification, it's not just 4 of us, there is still that 5th one as well.
okay, all right.
but,
So looking at the agenda, the next topic I think would be to try and find the next meeting date and time.
Can't believe I don't, okay, go ahead. What do you suggest?
well, I've got all the way through next week, Wednesday blocked out, because I'm at national
Oh,
troubleshooting
that's right,
competition
you're
with
gone.
students.
He's gone.
And
When-
he's- but he-
When's the next open time?
Dr. Sullivan's gone the rest of the month of June after that. You know, we have the 11th and then the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th open in June. But I don't know if Dr. Sullivan's comfortable with us meeting and talking about topics without him.
Honestly, that's, and I'm not being flippant, that's not my decision. You know, that's honestly a school board decision.
Yeah.
And, but given what I think the agenda would be, I'm not sure that the board would need me. Because more than anything, what you would be doing would be just identifying the issues and framing the issue at the time.
Yep, and writing problem
There would-
statements.
There would
Bring
likely,
problem statements and
Yeah.
the
We're not
the
gonna
process of
attend to it.
there
prioritizing.
likely wouldn't be any
Right.
type of,
You know, so,
I highly doubt we will
Resolution
have any
or-
tentative
No.
agreements next
No.
meeting. Next meeting.
but Thursday, the 11th is open, you know, and then the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, we're open. You know, then we're all open dates, so,
Next week's tough for me, but the following week I can anytime.
Do we want to
Except
shoot for
Tuesday.
2 the next week? Like a Monday, Wednesday?
next week, Mr. Fay, we have a school board meeting?
Oh,
so that would be that'd be the
Yeah,
15th.
following week.
He's saying the 15th and the 17th.
15th, 17th.
Yeah, I guess I could have said that over here so you can see.
Yeah, because Mr. Wool is gone at National, so,
Yeah.
you know, if we did like 2, the 15th and the 17th, I mean,
Because then we could get all our problem statements done and get some financial information.
Okay,
Are we able to approve minutes and this and that though in 2 days?
yeah, that would be a little
That would-
tough,
that would be
probably
tough.
between the 15th and the 17th. Maybe
Maybe
we,
on Monday,
Well,
Thursday, but.
Maybe the Thursday.
or if we had at least the problem statements written and to
Right.
look at and refine. If
And
we
maybe
didn't
set the
have the
second
minutes.
meeting after, yeah. The
If we
meeting.
didn't have
Yeah.
them, yeah.
Well, just for
We'll see what we do.
clarification, I mean, your ground rules state that the next meeting will be set at the end of the previous meeting.
Right,
So the
Right.
next
That's
thing
what
we'll
you
know,
just discussed.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just questioning whether
we don't need to
the
set-
parties really need to set 2 or 3
Sets.
meeting
Right.
dates.
yep, I agree.
So,
But it's nice to know that those are possibilities, so
Yep.
we could look
Let's
at our
just
calendars
See if we can
Right.
do that
and say if it's
following Monday.
possible.
We do that Monday, that way it sets us up
Which
the
one
rest
is,
of the week.
is the 15th a Monday? Is that what you're saying?
yes, the 15th is a Monday, the 17th is Wednesday.
Okay, so are you thinking,
I could do a Monday just on the happy stance that Thursday or something later in the week works, you know.
I don't know.
I know, but that's, if we're not setting the second meeting, but we can
Yeah.
set it on a Monday, that,
Then that
Gives
gives you
us
some
time.
time?
Gives you more
Right.
options, yeah.
Okay. Okay, what, does 4 o'clock work okay for everybody? Is that time okay?
4 or later is even fine with me, you know.
That day, I'm okay
I
later
gotta
too,
do
but.
4 myself.
You like
Maybe
4?
4?
Okay.
It's nice out in the evenings and it's light out, I don't know, just.
Okay.
There's life outside the boardroom?
There is.
What? Yeah, if we talk anymore, we're gonna have to have opposites next to each other.
Oh, no, we're not.
I know we're not.
I hope you're not
So
offended that
my-
I come dirty and in work clothes.
Well, we're okay, but.
Am I correct in
I was born there
understanding?
too, so I don't care.
Am I correct in understanding that the parties want to meet on June 15th at 4 PM?
Yes,
Yes.
as long as you understand, I don't have my calendar with me. I
Yep.
think it's okay,
Okay,
but can I just get a hold of you and
Yep.
let you know if that doesn't work? I just send you.
Email me or text
email,
me.
Which is best for you.
email or text, either one.
Okay, and just let you know.
Yep.
And then I'll check with Jason and we can see if,
Okay,
It is now 5 minutes to 5.
Okay.
Oh,
Perfect, Jason.
So do you want to conclude the meeting at this time?
Yes?
You
Okay,
want to debrief it?
meeting's adjourned.
Okay.
Yep, he already debriefed us.
Perfect.
Well, I think so.